What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about Saquon Barkley in that mid-first round section, what you should do when you're put in really the 5 through 7 pick. And I think that's what's most interesting about this discussion, is it's not just the first overall pick. It's 5 through 7, really. They could go in any direction. So we're going to talk about that middle part. We're going to talk about positional value, and we're going to talk about the roster construction that you see when you go a certain way. Now, we're not going to talk about overall roster construction or overall positional value from an overall draft perspective. We're just talking about this middle of the first round, but I think it's a very interesting discussion. But before we do that, shout out to Angel Garcia getting on the board with the stat of the day yesterday. Stat of the day. Every single day we're going to be doing it. We're going to do another one right now. It's a three-way tie for first place. Everyone only has one. We've only done it for 3 days. But the stat was only wide receiver to finish top 10 in drop rate, wide receiver rating, and yards per route run while playing all 16 games was Michael Thomas. Took you guys a little bit. Took you guys a little bit longer than it had the previous 2 days. So let's try and step up the speed of answering this question. Remember, it's the first person to get it right. We don't want you guys looking it up. That's just lame. Today's stat of the day. Since we're talking about Saquon Barkley, only found it fitting to look at college running backs. So, last season, college running backs who led the country in elusiveness rating and had a top 3 breakaway percentage. We are only counting backs that had at least 50% of their team's carries. We did not want someone having just one carry. So this person actually had carries in their offense, led the country in elusiveness rating, and was top 3 in breakaway percentage. One hint, no, it is not Saquon Barkley. On to the video. Let you guys fight that out in the comment section down below. We're going to start off with who is Saquon Barkley. Now, from an athleticism standpoint, we all know that the dude's a beast, right? But when you're looking, playerprofiler.com, search yourself some Saquon Barkley, 99th percentile height-adjusted speed score. That is something that I personally look at when I'm looking at a running back. That is that and SparkX score. But the main thing we want to do here is look at all these 90s. 99th percentile height-adjusted speed score, 96th percentile burst score, 96th percentile bench press. I don't put a ton of stock into that, but it was fun to throw it up there. 93rd percentile target market share in college. Now, I don't really know what the public thinks sometimes, but I think some people put Kamara ahead of him because they think of the receptions. Yes, we'll get to Kamara in a second. Don't you worry about that. But yes, Kamara's got a lot of reception totals, but Barkley has just as good of a receiving ability. 93rd percentile college target market share, 99th percentile SparkX score. This dude is an absolute monster. So I just wanted to throw this out there just in case some people were like, well, Trent Richardson got drafted really highly. That's nice. He's not Trent Richardson. This dude's one of the best running backs we've seen in a long time. I know you hear that every year, but he is a better prospect than Leonard Fournette. I believe he is a better prospect than Ezekiel Elliott, although they are very close. I believe he could be a better prospect than Todd Gurley. So, yes, we hear it every year that some of these guys are really good. This guy is really, really good. Who is ahead of him? There are 4 players that I truly believe maybe Barkley has a higher ceiling than, but that you draft these guys ahead of Barkley. Lev Bell, Todd Gurley, David Johnson, Ezekiel Elliott. People have asked me what order I prefer them in, and to be completely honest, and I am being honest here, if you have a preference on one of these players, everyone knows you're saying, oh, you're not going to get him in the second round. Just take who you like. I don't think there should be a massive argument that David Johnson should go ahead of Gurley, then Bell should be behind Gurley but ahead of David Johnson. They all have an elite number 1 overall season-changing season. They all have that ceiling. All of them. Elliott, for me, has a lower ceiling than those guys, but that doesn't mean he can't finish number 1. It's just the reception. In standard, it's even closer between all these guys. And actually, Bell takes a hit for the touchdowns. For me, 4th overall, Ezekiel Elliott. I have Lev Bell first because he combines the rushing totals with the receptions. David Johnson will have less rushing yards given 16 games. And that's another thing. I don't think we can look at these guys and say he's injury prone or he's more likely to get hurt. I think you need to evaluate these players based on what they will produce for you given 16 games. For me, it's in the order I have listed on the screen, just because Elliott has a lower touchdown total. David Johnson, the offense just has more question marks. Todd Gurley should see natural regression. And Le'Veon Bell, we know week in and week out, has just the highest ceiling. That is just my opinion. That's who's ahead of him. Not 100% what this video is about, but I wanted to highlight that I cannot make a case. I just can't. I love Barkley, but I cannot make a case for him ahead of these four players. But who is behind them? I really only think there's two players that are in the discussion to be drafted ahead of Barkley, and that's Antonio Brown and Alvin Kamara. And I wanted to highlight Antonio Brown first because I don't think you can really find a person that would rank Hopkins ahead of Antonio Brown. So he's the only wide receiver you would take. And I wanted to talk about how your team looks when you take Brown. So I'm assuming a 12-team league. It's what most people play. I'm assuming PPR is what most people play. The discussion's slightly different if you're in like a 10 or an 8-team league, but this is for 12-team leagues. The second pick, so you have 5. The second pick comes out at 20. Now, the wide receivers in that range right now, as of recording the video, are AJ Green and Mike Evans, and both of them have question marks. I'm not going to deny that. AJ Green has, to be completely honest, disappointed for like 4 consecutive seasons. But he's AJ Green, and we all know the upside of AJ Green. We all know the upside of Mike Evans, an ascending offense with Jameis Winston and weapons around him now where defenses can't just hyper-focus on Evans. So those are the wide receivers you can get. The running backs have a lot more question marks. McCoy, he's passing, I said McCoy, kind of weird right there. McCoy is passing that 2,500 touch mark. I believe he's already passed it. So you've got an aging, I'm not going to say aged, but an aging running back who has shown us some injuries in the past. Not a ton. I won't call him injury prone at all, but I will say that running backs tend to get injured more as their career progresses. Who's past that touch apex that we do not like drafting players behind unless their name's Frank Gore and they're just unbelievable. You've got Devonta Freeman, who, to be honest, has also disappointed in recent years. The receptions for him are down. The offense as a whole looked a lot different than it did in that magical season they had. So he's got question marks, plus they drafted a running back. And then you've got Joe Mixon, who, yes, we love on this channel, but you know as well as I do that Joe Mixon is a risky pick. So a lot more question marks when you pair Antonio Brown with some of those running backs. Barkley, to me, and that's, I guess, a discussion point, provides more value. If Barkley hits his ceiling and you have AJ Green and Mike Evans, that is better for me than Antonio Brown hitting his ceiling and you taking a shot on McCoy, Freeman, and Mixon. Because we all know, I've written an article about it, we've posted videos about it in the past, and we will again in the future, that hitting on a running back is much more valuable to your team, no matter what the scoring format, than hitting on a wide receiver. In standard scoring, it's a massive gap. I mean, it is just almost to the point where just don't even draft wide receivers early in standard unless they score a lot of touchdowns. You can draft, Antonio, Hopkins, Odell, but it is just, if you don't hit on running back in a standard scoring format, you won't win. You just can't go RB0. But I think even in PPR scoring, the ceiling that Barkley provides along with the floor is to the point where I'm fine taking him ahead of Antonio Brown. So that's my take. I put a question mark next to not really limiting upside because this is a discussion. This is not a one-way lecture. I believe in the data, and I believe in hitting on running backs being the most important part of your process in drafting your team, even in PPR leagues. Could Antonio Brown break the receiving record any given season? Absolutely. But Would it shock you if Barkley ended up top 3 or even top 1? Now, it would be surprising if in his rookie season he ended up top 1, but would it truly shock you? That's the question I'm posing. Alvin Kamara. The volume discrepancy alone has me taking Barkley ahead of Kamara as well. Kamara is also the leading touchdown regression candidate. I will link again, I already have, and I've already talked about it, Scott Barrett's article from Pro Football Focus highlighting the different players that could see regression this season, with Kamara being just massive, absolutely massive. I believe, I will not be quoted on this, but I believe it was around 5.5 touchdowns he was expected, scored 13. So, yeah, there's a little bit of regression to be predicted there. I don't want to get into the huge debate about Kamara again, because I have in previous videos, and I will in the future again. But just remember, the volume is the only thing that we can predict as analysts. This is the only thing that you can predict. You cannot predict touchdowns. As much as people want to tell you you can predict touchdowns, you cannot. You can predict volume. And Barkley has a lot more predicted volume than Kamara does. He will touch the ball a lot more times, and their touchdown projections right now are about identical. So it's not like we're projecting one massively over the other, but would it shock you if Kamara only had 6 or 7 and Barkley scored 13? No, it would not shock me if that happens. Barkley was drafted number 2 overall for a reason. Front offices love to prove they're right, especially right away. They want to keep their jobs. They're not going to play Jonathan Stewart a ton. They want to keep their jobs. So they draft this guy really high. They better prove that it was worth it. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to feature him in the offense. Now, obviously, Odell's still there. And obviously, they're going to use Ingram. And obviously, they're going to use Shepard. But my point is, they are going to feature him with chances at the goal line, with receptions out of the backfield, and with a ton of carries. And I believe that volume, that upside, and that positional scarcity is why you can draft Saquon Barkley with the number 5 overall pick. That is my viewpoint, and I would love, absolutely love, to get in discussions with you in the comment section down below if you have any other viewpoints. But that is the end of this video. Hope you did enjoy. If you did, how about we smash that like button, subscribe if you are new. Thanks for watching.